Hello. Well, my name is Shannon Waldron, and I am coming to you today to talk with you just a little bit about our thoughts and our mindset and the power that really our thoughts have on our lives. And so we're going to be focusing on our thoughts and how that really affects our overall wellness and how our wellness starts in the mind. So I want to tell you guys first just a little bit about myself. So again, my name is Shannon Waldron. I'm a pastor's wife. So my husband, he works at Eagle Brook Church. He's one of the group's pastors, actually at the Blaine campus. And so we moved here a couple of years ago for ministry. It just so happens that my parents came with us and live about 20 minutes away, and my brother already lived here before that. So that's an awesome blessing when God's going to move you across the country. It's just been such a blessing to have them close by, a quick drive distance away. And so, but I am a pastor's wife. I've also led worship in the past, and worship is a big part of who I am and my heart and my purpose. And I just absolutely love ministry and serving others. And so we also have 3 boys. So I'm a mom to 3 boys. This picture here is my 3 boys. So my oldest is 13, my middle is 9, and our youngest just turned 5. So it's been such a blessing. But if those of you that have children know that there are hardships that come with parenting and the season that is, and 3 boys, you can imagine, can get pretty loud and chaotic and crazy inside the house at times. And it's been taking me really to work on my mindset and my perspective on things to really help me have positive thoughts and feelings about that when that's happening, and then to address it when it is a problem in a good positive way. I don't do this right all the time. I'm right with you on I fail many times and have to go back and apologize for my tone or raising my voice or whatever it is. I think a lot of us parents are the same in that we many times, or at least often, can find ourselves losing our cool when we really didn't want to. So these are the things that we're going to talk about today, are things that have kind of helped me in my own personal life, especially this last year and a half. It's been kind of a focus of mine because I kind of found myself in a position of feeling like I have all these blessings around me. So why do I feel the way that I feel? So I want to give you kind of some background knowledge about my story. So I basically in college had horrible allergies, and that stemmed from when I was younger. I had really bad allergies and asthma, and that caused me to be on steroids and a lot of prescriptions for both of those things kind of as I was growing. And I found myself in college. I'd grown out of my asthma, which was awesome, but my allergies were heightening, and they were getting worse and worse and worse. And I had tried all of the prescriptions that they had out there, and they just weren't working for me anymore. And so that's kind of what started my journey to find natural wellness. My best friend from college reached out to me, and she said that her husband had really great results with trying these really high quality supplements with his respiratory struggles. And so I thought, what have I got to lose? And so when I noticed about 3 months later, my mom asked me, how are your allergies doing? I said, they're fine, but it's not the bad season yet. And she said, oh, yes, it is. Everybody's talking about how bad they are. And so I kind of got to that point where I realized, oh my goodness, this is really working for me. And it just started me down a journey of finding natural things that are out there that can help me with my wellness. We all know that prescriptions have side effects, and they have things that are not the greatest for us. And there is an absolute need for prescriptions when the timing is right and when you absolutely need it. But I've just found that so many times I can find a natural solution that works before I have to then turn to the prescriptions and things that have the side effects or that aren't good for us. I'm a person who has side effects from those things. Being on all those prescriptions my whole life growing up has left my stomach a mess. It's something I'm still working on and slowly working toward finding healing for that. But I'm so, so grateful that I learned along the way from my best friend that there are natural options that are out there that can help you without the harmful side effects, that can actually like do inside your body what God created it to do, and that's to heal itself. And so that's kind of my journey on wellness. That's why I'm here today talking to you about wellness, is because it's a passion of mine. I want so badly to help people realize that they do not have to just accept their struggling as their norm. That is not, I don't believe, what God intended. I believe that God has given us things from the beginning of creation that are what we need for our bodies to get what we need, so that our body can then do what God created it to do, and that's to heal itself. So again, I found myself, I'm a blessed mom. I was in ministry at this time. I had friends, all of these things, but yet I still had this lack of contentment. I had so many insecurities, and this image of who I was, cared so much about what other people care, and just stuck, totally stuck in these mindsets and this self-image of who I am. And it wasn't centered on who I am the way that God says that I am, who God says that I am, where that identity comes from God instead of me and the world and all of those things. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through the journey that I have been on, and some of the science and the knowledge that I've learned along the way as to how we can actually change that. We don't have to keep living stuck in those negative mindsets or that negative self-image or the negative self-talk that we say to ourselves that we would never ever say to someone else. We do that to ourselves. And you don't have to live that way anymore. I don't have to live that way anymore. And it is so freeing to be on this journey towards having that positive mindset and that shift in my perspective and in my thoughts. And so I have realized that even though I had all these wellness things with, supplements and eating good foods and, all of the things, I realized if I cannot fix my mindset, I'm still going to be struggling. And so we're going to talk today about how to do that. So let's start with talking about what is wellness. The dictionary online, dictionary.com, says the quality or state of being in good health in body and mind, especially as the result of deliberate effort. Now, I love this definition, one, because it talks about how it's a combination of not just body. A lot of times when we think of wellness, we just think of health. We just think of our body, our physical health. And that's not actually. Wellness is a big picture of all of it. It's holistic. It's the whole picture of our body, our mindset, our mental states, all of that. But it comes from the result of deliberate effort. You guys, we have human nature. It is our human nature to get stuck on the bad, to get stuck on the negative. And so we have to put in that deliberate effort to receive the wellness that we really want to have and what I really believe God intended for us to have. So let's talk about the opposite. What is disease? Disease is a disordered or incorrectly functioning organ, part, structure, or system of the body resulting from the effect of genetic or developmental errors, infection, poisons, nutritional deficiency or imbalance, toxicity, or unfavorable environmental factors. Now, again, this is from dictionary.com. If you look at each of these things, okay, we have genetics, right? Which with genetics, we have something that's missing, right? So there's a lack of balance there and something that's needed. Infection, poisons, nutritional deficiencies, those are all things that our body is not getting enough of what it needs. And so it's a deficiency in some way. I believe that all of these things can be cut down to two things, right? One of them is deficiencies, not getting enough of something that we need. And the other is toxicity, having toxic levels of harmful things that are affecting our body. And that can be a many different factors, but those two main categories are where most of our disease and illness comes from. A deficiency of some sort, or a toxicity of some sort, of harmful things that are in our body. So we're not going to talk too much today about a lot of these toxicity things, but basically that can be a bunch of different factors. That can be the environment, and toxins from the environment that are affecting us. as far as chemicals and things in the air. That can be chemicals, harmful chemicals that are in our everyday products. So lotions that we put onto our skin, things that we breathe in our perfume or our hairspray, all of those things. If we have those toxic levels in our body, that's going to create toxicity, which then makes it really difficult for the body to function the way that it was designed to. And so let's talk for a second about what affects our health positively. So what are the things that we can do, that we can have control over, that does affect our health in a positive way? So nutrients from food are going to definitely benefit us. Eating well, okay? So eating good foods, not the processed foods and things like that. Eating the whole foods, the things that, think back to the Bible days, right? How long did people live in the Bible days? Hundreds of years. Okay, I get that the world wasn't as polluted, the soils were awesome as the beginning, but if you think back to Bible days, those kinds of foods, that's what's best for us, whole foods. So eating well. At this day and age, it is not possible to get the amount of nutrients that our body needs to stay well from a physical standpoint. And so supplements is so important. If you are not taking a good supplement, and I don't mean over-the-counter supplements, because I've done a lot of research in that area, and you will not find some that are the quality that you want, that are affordable out there on the store shelves. And so you have to find them from a good source. But it is so crucial that you get good supplements so you don't have those deficiencies, because we can't get everything from food, even if we eat as healthy as we can. Exercise, we all know that is good to keep our body moving, keep our heart in good health. Exercise is important. Getting good sleep, and I will tell you this, I'll tell my story on the next slide, but this is a really important one that can lead down a spiral and a rabbit hole that you do not want to go down. And so if you are in a position of struggling with these things, there are definitely things that I can help you with to find a solution that can help you with any of these areas. A balance, and this is not just balance in hormones or balance, it's a balance in a lot of things. Balance in your schedule, balance in your stress and your peace levels, balance in the foods that you're eating and the nutritions you're getting. This is a balance of so many different things. Balance in your emotions and your mental state, but also your body system's in balance. It's really important to have that positive effects on our health. So the reverse side, right? Eating the processed foods and the high sugars and things that are not straight from what God created and gave us. This is where we start seeing those negative effects on our health. A lack of exercise, toxicity in our body. Now you guys listen, I know it sounds ridiculous, but in lotion, okay, over-the-counter lotion, if there are chemicals in there that are preserving that so that it doesn't rot and get mold and other bacteria forming in it, but that preservative is not a natural source and a good source for you, yeah, it might be a little bit amount in that lotion. But then when you add that same amount that's in your hairspray that you're breathing in, and then you add the same amount that's in your hair and shampoo, and then the same amount in your cosmetics, all of a sudden that what amount was okay in that one product and is approved, you know, to be in products and be legal so that they say it's not going to affect you negatively in your health. When you add all of those things together, it produces toxic levels in your body that your body does not know what to do with. And then your body is constantly fighting to get rid of the toxins rather than keep your body healthy. I can't stress the importance of learning more about these hidden toxins that are in our chemicals and getting rid of those things so that you're not then, your body is being able to fight off the things that you really want it to be fighting off rather than just the chemicals that are in your products, okay? Not adequate sleep. I work with a company called VIP Kid. I teach English to kids over in China. And when I first started doing this, I would start teaching at 4 a.m. in the morning because of the time difference. And I will tell you guys that it sent me on a spiral. I was so in a bad place because of not getting enough sleep. It is so important. If you are in a position where you are struggling with insomnia or something, please reach out to me. There are so many solutions and options that you have to try. You have to just find what works for you. But these are the things, you guys, that affect our wellness so much. It can affect our thoughts. Even eating too much sugar and things can affect our thoughts, and our everything gets imbalanced when we're eating too much sugars or processed foods. It's really amazing. But all of these things, obviously anxiety, stress, we all know the harmful things that can cause to us. And a lot of what leads to this anxiety and stress is our thoughts. And that's what we're focusing on today. All right, so let's talk about our thoughts. So basically, in any situation, right, we feel an emotion. And that emotion then triggers a thought. Okay, and it can be a good thought, it can be a not so good thought. And that thought then helps us make our decisions, which then our decisions affect our behaviors, the things that we do, the things that we say, and then that in direct correlation impacts our relationships, which then goes right back to our emotions and how we feel about our own self-image, about our world around us, about our life. And it's just this cycle. So you can see that if we have those emotions that lead to negative thoughts, that then lead to negative decisions, to negative behaviors, to negative relationships, to then more negative emotions, we can easily get stuck in this cycle of our mindset and the cycle of the negative mindset and thoughts that really can do a number on ourselves health-wise, but also in just the enjoyment and the peace that we have in our life. So how does this affect our health? So for those of you that like science, here's a little bit of science for you. So these negative emotions, they trigger the amygdala in the limbic brain, and they send out a red alert that activates that fight or flight stress response. My son actually got stuck in this at a season in his life, and it was very difficult. We ended up taking him to counseling to try and help him get out of that because he was so stuck in that fight or flight mode. So when the nervous system does get in fight or flight, the body's self-repair mechanisms, they don't function properly. And then the body can't naturally do what God created it to do to heal itself. So it's predisposed to illness. And you know how you've heard of the saying, all because, you know, you thought yourself sick. Well, it really is a real thing. Your mindset and your thoughts really have so much power over everything. Okay, so we're going to talk about the power of our thoughts and what we can do. I'm a practical step-by-step person, so I'm going to give you some things that I've learned from a book study that I'm doing in my small group with other women at church. So basically, our thoughts, right, just keep bouncing around in our heads. Us women especially, sorry men if you're listening, but us women, our thoughts are way more. We have so many more thoughts going on a daily basis than men do. And basically, when those thoughts are constantly bouncing around, that's what we're focusing on in that moment, in that day, in that season in our life. And it is so true that what we choose to focus on expands. So let's just say that I'm in a season, which I've been in the past, and a little bit right now, to be honest, where I'm like busy, you know, and sometimes when we're in that moment where it's like, I'm just so busy, I don't have time for that. We get like this, we stir up this anxiety every time we have the thought and we agree, yes, I'm so busy, I don't have enough time. And then before you know it, you're having anxiety attacks and you're having to go to the doctor because your heart is doing weird things. And you're like, how did this happen? I'm so busy. And the stress just keeps growing and growing and growing. Okay, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough money, I used to think that all the time, when in reality I had a savings account with money in it. It develops this scarcity mindset that is so hard to get out of. What we choose to focus on expands. Now, you guys, listen, I probably should have made choose bold. You choose what your mind is focused on. Your mind is different from your brain. You choose what your mind thinks on. So, can our thoughts really determine who we are as a person? Okay, I want to talk about the long-term effects of these negative thoughts that we can get stuck on. So, where attention goes, neural firing flows and neural connection grows. This is by Dr. Dan Siegel. You guys, there is science to this. It is not just my own belief. It's not just what I say or what I've experienced, but there is science to what our mind is fixed on. It develops pathways to our brain. So if my mind is constantly saying, I'm so stressed out, I don't have time. I'm so stressed out, I don't have time. Your brain actually starts developing a path that it naturally starts going down. And the deeper that groove is on that path of thought, the more likely you are to go there. What we think about, our brains become. How many of us have lived with insecurities, right? I'm not good enough. This friend rejected me. I'm rejectable. And the more we say that, the more that's who we become, because our brain is fixed on those thoughts that we are choosing. And before we know it, that's who we become. That's who we are. So what we fixate on is neurologically who we will be. But if we can learn to fix our minds on things, it can actually change our brain. But it's a process of learning, and I'm going to teach you what I've learned and what I'm working on for me to how to do that. So before we do, I want to take you to some scripture. So in Romans 8:5, it says, those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires. But those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. You guys, this is the mind. This is what we choose. If we choose to fix our mind on what the world desires, beauty, fame, weight, self-image, all of those things, that's what our brain is focused on. That's the worldly things. That's the flesh things, the desires. But if we choose to focus and fix our minds on what the Spirit desires, and we do have that choice, that's what life that we are going to live. Okay, so how do we change our thinking? We're going to get into the practical part of things. And basically, the book study that I've been doing is by Jenny Allen. It's called Get Out of Your Head. I don't know if you've read it or not. It is an awesome book. It's helped us in our group so very much. It's very practical things on how to get out of the rut of doing these things that are just so damaging to our overall wellness. And so here's some steps that Jenny Allen shares in her book. So basically, when one of those negative thoughts comes in, or one of those negative anything, mindset, perspective, any of that comes in, you want to grab that thought, and I grab a piece of paper, because otherwise, if I just do it all in my head, sometimes things get jumbled in our heads, right? And then we're still stuck. So I grab a piece of paper and I write down, what is this thought? Is it, I'm not good enough, or I just can't, I can't, I'm not good at this one thing, or nobody loves me, or whatever your thought is. You want to write down what that thought is, grab it and write it down, like bring it out of the darkness into the light. And then next you want to diagnose the thought. So you want to think through, is that thought true? Right? So for me, my example, I'm not good enough. Okay. Is that true? Is it true that I'm not good enough? Who says, whose opinion is that? And the next one is take it to God. What does God say about it? So there are so many scriptures that say how important, how special. God knows the number of hairs on our head. If he cares so much about the birds, how much more does he care about providing for our needs? There are so many scriptures that contradict my lie and that negative thought that I am not good enough. And then I have to make the choice to believe what God says over what my mind is telling me. And you guys, for me, that comes with saying it over and over and over again. And I'll tell you some other strategies that I do. I'll pair an oil with it. I'm a big essential oil person, believe in supplements and oils and things that God gave us from plants to help us. And so I, a lot of times, will pair that with me saying what I need, or saying that positive thing, that scripture, that affirmation of what God says is true, so that my mind can eventually believe it. You guys, at first you may not believe it. You're developing that pathway in your brain, and you may not feel it, you may not agree with it at first, but the more you make your mind and your brain go down that path, eventually you will believe it, and you will become what your mind is fixed on and what your mind is focused on. Okay, so here's another scripture. This is Philippians 4:8. It says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. You guys, from the very beginning, God knew our human nature. He knew what we would struggle with, and there are so many promises and guidances throughout Scripture that can help us find peace. This Scripture comes right after Scripture talking about peace, right? What we think about, if we go to God in prayer, then the peace that surpasses all understanding will guard our hearts. And this is how we do that, by going to God in prayer and fixing our mind on what is good, what is pure, what is true, what is right, what is lovely, what is admirable. You guys, these are the secrets. These are the things. These are what God has given us from the very beginning for our wellness. And so I want to talk to you just a second about the power of your thoughts. And so, oh goodness, I just realized that a bunch of my slides are missing. Okay, well, I guess maybe I can just wing it and go over those things. So I had some slides that were talking about the positive benefits of our wellness and of those the things, these practices that it can do in our minds, but maybe God's just telling me that that's not important. So again, I like to pair an oil with that. One of the reasons why I believe in doing that is, one, how many of you have ever had a memory or a thought that's triggered by a smell or a scent? For me, it's leather seats in a car. It reminds me of my grandparents because that was their car, and that scent just brings back those memories. And so sometimes just pairing a scent with a thought can help you as you smell that scent throughout the day. I put oils on. This one's kind of my perfume that I wear. I can remember those scriptures or those affirmations, the true things that God says are true about me throughout my day, and that just helps me so much more to be able to live in God's promises rather than in my own negative thoughts and insecurities. And it can bring all of these things in our life. It can bring healing. It can bring balance and purpose and restoration and transformation. And so I just want to encourage you guys, if you haven't already, get Jenny Allen's book, because it is so good. If this is something that you find is an area of weakness for you, like it has been for me in the past, I encourage you to do that, to get her book. She even has a free book study, like a book club guide. You can grab a couple of friends and do it together and hold each other accountable. But I promise you guys, if you can learn to choose what your mind is fixed on, and choose the good things over the lies that the enemy wants us to believe, so that we won't have the power that God has given us to do the purpose that He's created us for, you will have a much more peaceful and abundant life. And so I just thank you guys for taking the time with me today. And I pray that you guys have an awesome week, that even in this time of unknowns and what's happening and things where maybe those thoughts and the anxiety and all of that can be totally out of control right now. I pray that God would use this to touch your heart in a way that you would draw closer to Him, and that you would be reminded of His promises about how awesome and important and special and how purposeful your life is, and that He has such a plan, and He's going to use all of this stuff, even the hard, even the bad, for good. He promises that in Scripture, and choose to fix your mind and focus on that promise. Thank you guys so much, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day.